Hey, my name is Ben Selstrom. I'm going to show you how to solder and prepare a shower valve for installation in the case of actually needing to solder it. This particular one I have here is a Moen Posi-Temp shower valve. This is only a shower valve, doesn't have the tub spout coming out of it. If this were a tubs one, you would just have a fourth connection coming down onto the bottom there, and that one you're always supposed to do in copper and solder anyway, but it's not what we have going on today. So we're going to solder these three connections. Now we have two options for what we could use to connect. We could use these threaded adapters, or we can solder in PEX adapters. In this case I'm going to be going to PEX. So we're going to go ahead and use the soldering option because there is no possibility of this leaking with a solder joint, whereas a thread joint has more long-term potential to have a small leak. We're going to go ahead and clean this first just by taking some emery paper and just rotating this fitting and polishing the copper. And here's a quick comparison of what it should look like after you clean it. As you can see, the one on the left here has been cleaned and the one on the right still needs to be cleaned, and you just want it to be totally polished so it's ready to take solder. Next we take a 1/2-inch brush for cleaning the inside of the fitting that we will be soldering into. So we just go ahead and push that into there and rotate it a few times. If you don't have a brush like this, you can do it with the emery paper, but it's very difficult. But it is possible, so don't be discouraged. You can probably get to work. So let's go ahead and clean all three of those. And you can even take your paper and sand this top surface here a little bit as well. And that helps it to just have a really good start to the fitting. So you get all of those three cleaned. Now this next part is probably the most crucial. When you solder this valve, you absolutely have to remove the cartridge, which is what this stem is coming out of right here. This is the cartridge. So before we remove that, take a Sharpie and it's just kind of it should be pretty easy to remember which way it goes back in, but if you just do this and you make a mark right there, I have already done it, but I'm going to do it again here. And then I'm going to make another one right here. And I'm going to make another one up here so that I can remember which side was up. And so when I slide the cartridge back in, I can put it in the correct direction. So next we're going to pull out this pin right here, just like that, and set that to the side. And then take a channel lock or some kind of a pliers and get a hold of the stem of this and pull it out. We'll see how it goes here. Just like that. So there we have it. It's pulled out, and we're gonna just set this to the side. And now we can see inside of our valve that there is no plastic parts left. So now we are okay to heat it up in order to solder it. So we're gonna get this ready to go here. Next we're gonna take our Flux, which looks like this. It's basically some grease stuff. They also call it a wetting agent, and basically what this does is helps the solder to flow into the joint. So we are going to go ahead and put Flux on the male side here that will be going into this fitting, and put a little bit on the female side here as well. And do the same to all of your joints to prepare them. Alright, so I have all the fittings prepared and on here. Now, you could theoretically solder it in this orientation, and it probably would be okay, but the reason you wouldn't, when you're soldering, the solder could drip down and into the body of the valve. And you could probably get the solder out even if it did drip down in there, but best practice, if it were me doing it, if you do it horizontally, any excess solder is just going to drip down onto whatever surface is below your valve. So you're going to be better off in that sense. So just make sure that you have some kind of a surface below it that you don't care if it gets messed up too much. Or in this case I have a piece of tin to protect it from any piece of molten solder. So we're going to go ahead and solder this fitting now. The type of solder I'm using today is a lead-free solder, which is required in most states for anything that is drinking water. I think all states now. So we're going to go ahead and use this in combination with this flux and begin heating this joint. And the key is to not get your joint overheated. You want to get it to the temperature you need it to be, but then not any hotter than that. So here we go. And I'll let this video just be continuous in order to give the most accurate representation of how long it takes to heat it up. Alright, we're almost there already. And you can see it's wicking it in. And now we're going to be getting and your valve body is going to get hot relatively quickly here. Now we do have a little drip of solder there. So if that bothers you psychologically, I could heat this up a little bit more and wipe that little drip off there. It's not actually going to hurt anything. But we can see all the way around this edge here that we have a consistent bead all the way around. And that's exactly what you're looking for. And that will happen as long as you did a really good job of cleaning the surface here and here. It's going to just pull that solder right into the joint. So now we're going to repeat for the next two. And I'll video one more here. I did the second one. I'll just do the third one so you can watch one more time. Even after your heat is gone, you can still get a little bit more solder to melt into the joint. So now, since I've just done 3 in a row, the valve is getting nice and warm, so I'm not going to be able to pick it up with my fingers. So I'm going to grab it with my wrench here. We're going to just look over each one of these joints. And that one looks really good. You can have a consistent bead solder all the way around the perimeter. That's a really key element to it, is that you can see there's no break, there's no spot where there's a little gap. This is the second one we did, I think. And the first one, we've got our big old drip on it. I'm going to leave it on there just for the fun of it. But that is how we do solder joints. And this applies to regular solder joints as well, but with a shower valve it's just a little bit more tricky. But now we have no chance of there being a leak here. No chance of a leak developing. Versus if you have a thread-on fitting, you have a chance of there being a leak. If you do it right, you probably won't, but that is how you solder a shower valve. So before you put your cartridge back in, you want to make sure that you let your valve cool all the way down, and that's going to be it. Again, my name is Ben Selstrom. I'm a journeyman plumber in Minnesota, so I have actually done this before. Doesn't mean I know how to do it right, but hopefully this helped you. If it did, feel free to subscribe and like the video. I hope this helped. We'll talk to you later.